Lovely find, trying to hit Greer, trying to go over the top, grinding all the way underneath. It's going to be a redemption opportunity, and it's a layout goal!
And then launches the blade, that's gonna work. It's gonna land just outside. Will Chevron let him in? What was that?
Great catch. Leaves her feet to make sure of it. What a fantastic left-handed catch.
Sits into the position, underthrows, but over-corrected. Has options, overthrows, and it's rescued anyway. Sometimes things just work out.
Oh my goodness, how did he catch that? Oh, so much separation, surely that's good. Full stretch layout. Gets the block, gets the boy down the line. Flissman catches the goal that wins Bristol another national title.
Getting so much joy in these small spaces. What are you supposed to do? Miraculous.
UKU Nationals 2025, the first final in the books. We move now on to the mixed division with two sides who seem to have been on a collision course for this game right from the off. Deep Space against Reading, two titans of this division, both on home soil and on the continent as well. And it promises to be a tantalising encounter. I'm Benjamin Rees, delighted to be joined by Rachel Douglas for this game. Doug, what can we expect?
Well, I think it's going to be another absolute banger. Both these teams really wanting it. Of course, by earning their spot in this final, both of these teams have also secured their spot at the World Championships next year in Ireland. A huge accomplishment for them, both really proud to be able to go and represent. But of course, the job isn't done. We have Reading trying to unseat Deep Space. Deep Space, the national champion last year and the year before, the European champion these last 2 years as well. Really such a formidable side and has really been going from strength to strength. But Reading training hard, trying to chase them down, nip at their heels and see if they can unseat them from that today.
Yeah, once it was Reading who ruled the roost here in the UK in the mixed division, but Deep Space have taken that title from them in the past couple of years. Here you have a look at the bracket. Both finished top of their pools. Reading qualifying ahead of Lemmings, and Deep Space had a clean sweep. Steel snuck the second spot. Three-way tie between Steel, BN1 and Heck that came down to points difference against Deep Space. And then Reading with a consummate victory, 15-6 over Steel in their semi-final, 13-11 over Lemmings for Deep Space to put them in this game this afternoon.
So it does sound like reports of that Deep Space Lemmings game that it was really hotly contested right up until the last moment. Deep Space just securing that advantage and putting the win in, but kind of a real sort of threatening sudden death moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if Deep Space, their legs perhaps are slightly less fresh coming into this game. It looks like Reading did actually have the slightly easier semi, Lemmings putting up a massive fight. So it'll be interesting to see how Deep Space are able to bring the energy. And of course, these two teams did match up against each other at the regional qualifiers. They are both in the southern region. Deep Space taking the title at regionals with a 15-11 win, but Reading now really seeking to do some damage against their long-time rivals and see if they can come away with the title.
Whichever way it goes, I would be surprised if it wasn't closer this time out. Deep Space in the white, beginning on offense, going left to right to start. Reading in these brand new navy jerseys with the salmon pink accents, we'll call it. Downline is Squires, putting one out into space into the end zone. That is exactly the way they would have wanted to start. Smooth as silk. Ben Phipps on the score, and Deep Space starting like a dream.
That looked well drilled, that looked smooth and comfortable. I mean, it was definitely a big sort of athletic effort. The cutters are tearing down the field, trying to create space with their defense hot on their shoulders, but really well positioned from Deep Space just to keep a lot of width of the field. You know, they didn't have lots of cutters in the same space, which really meant that they were able to exploit the opportunities and have that sort of lovely flowing movement right into the end zone for a pretty comfy and tidy first point.
There's a phrase that if you're standing still, you're going backwards. And for Deep Space, I think that is a little bit the case where they were cognizant of that. And so they have there's been a fair amount of turnover with their side. See new faces into the fold, players like Rosie Bailey, Carmel Ellis come over from Lemmings just to add that depth, and they're constantly cognizant of the fact that they need to make changes and adapt. They're really aware that they can't afford to settle down, because when you get comfortable, that's when you become vulnerable. Not the cleanest fielding of the pool, but picked up on the first pass. Goes from Espinosa to Thompson. Now Ray, who will be as rock solid as ever. Self-checked in. Lewis screaming for it underneath. Thompson trying to squeeze her way up line. Bids and swipes with the right hand. Crafting the inside window through. And now working downfield. Leicester uncorking a big one, looking for Lewis in the end zone. A really good peel into that space by the defender, not to let it go. And Thacker gets her rewards.
Yeah, Thacker's a known D machine. Always going after stuff, very, very, very speedy. We see there, like, doesn't matter what the gender matchup is, Thacker's going to go and put some pressure on. That was really well read. Lots of pressure on the Reading offense, not able to put it in. Deep space now looking to secure their first break and start the game with the kind of strength and force that they want to continue.
Sarah Hawkyard goes into the centre for Fisher. And then gets it back. I think got a little clip on the back of the ankle there from Leicester, but picks herself up. Samuel to Hawkyard. That's a bit of a floater. Couple of players in the area. And it's the hand of Kelsey Stullen on the end of it. Trying to trap him close to the disc. Espinosa, his first season with Reading. To Hogan, who's going to gun this one deep, looking for Ray, and it dies at the last moment.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. That was a great option. B-Ray had just snuck off. No defender within playable distance, but that just bladed in a bit here. We see that turnover. Two Reading players underneath to see it down. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. There was nice shape on that from Hogan, but wind sort of dies for a moment, and again the disc just moves that slightly less predictable way.
Another opportunity here for the deep space D-line. Millard put a bit of air underneath it, popped but collected. Second attempt by Thacker. Going back to Millard. All the way across. Fisher has time to watch it into the breadbasket. Millard can lead Hawkyard to space. Threatens the continuation. Inside instead to Turner. Doing a good job just moving it around the back, working laterally while they get organised in the centre. And there's a call. Potential foul on the mark. I feel like these scenarios almost always end in an accepted foul, but not necessarily.
Yeah, hard to say. It did look like Thacker to put in a really big fake, put some bit on it a bit. Hard to tell if there was any contact. You know, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a foul call if there wasn't some contact. But yeah, as you say, in these situations, that's often the resolution, and then the disc is quickly brought back in.
Turner really gets around the mark and a foul called. You see pivoting perpendicular just to try and create that angle, but a slap of the hand potentially.
Seems like there's a discussion now about Turner feels like that impacted the throw. Lewis may be saying, you know, that the throw came out fine, and no. Once again, foul uncontested. It is really difficult. If there is some contact, it's difficult as the force, unless it's super clean cut, like the disc was already free and clear. As you say, it often ends up being an accepted foul, which is the right resolution, really.
So back into Turner with that shock blonde hair. Goes around, Hawkyard had to adjust and couldn't scoop as she slid. Lewis with the quick pickup. Thompson screaming for it, and Lewis delivers and now charges off deep. Thompson's going to look to thread it through and didn't get enough air on it. This has been a messy start for Reading.
Yeah, you can see Lewis really setting up that cut with absolute fury, but it's a really difficult channel. It was almost in direct line with Thompson, meaning there's not really any throwing channel. You need to put a lot of shape on it, and in these conditions, that's really challenging, and ultimately, a low disc certainly isn't going to get it done.
Fisher scoops, and Sandwell has Hogan for company. Into the backfield for Thacker, who's going to sit it and pop it up. And a dismissive swipe from Hogan. Had no time for any of that.
Yeah, just got his fingers under the rim of that disc and scooped it away. That looked like full extension, but gets the job done.
It's Kelsey Stollen on the far sideline. Hogan waves away Leicester so he can get the offhand through to Lewis. Lewis fires into Thompson, and Reading just about get the job done. But my word, they made it hard on themselves.
I hope Reading just take a breath here for that sort of steadying recollection of their intentions coming into this game. Felt like there was a lot of really ambitious looks there that didn't feel super necessary. And actually, in the end, just working it in, working through, being clear and decisive with your cutting options is what's going to bring them success and get their first point on the board. But like you say, it was such a labour to get there. You need to be a bit mindful of your kind of how much energy you're going to expend.
Yeah, I mean, that deep space D-line, you got yourself 3 break opportunities. You'll be disappointed not to convert on any of those. But getting a little bit of extra mileage, some wear and tear in those Reading legs is not a bad thing. See there in the background, Bristol, Chevron and Clapham getting ready for the medal ceremony in the Open division. Spoiler alert, by the way, if you missed the Open final, it was Clapham once again capturing the title, Chevy second, Bristol third, and that all-important third WUCC spot. Just 2 qualification places available in the women's and the mixed divisions, so both of these sides have made given themselves the opportunity to get those flight reservations in nice and early for Limerick next summer. Caudron, of course, spent a long time with Reading before making the switch to deep space. Jack Hawkyard coming through, airing it out deep. That is a wonderful, shapely throw into the end zone. And Rachel Naden, the gleeful recipient.
Yeah, lots of space to work for Rachel Naden, which is not something you want to do. A fierce receiver. I mean, when she has the disc in her hands, she's also a problem, but you definitely don't want to give her an end zone to work with, especially when you have throwers like Hawkyard who can put that out into space. Never mind the gusts. Curl that disc around nicely so she can just run onto it. That's really lovely. And again, a really kind of decisive offense from deep space, which now forces the Reading O-line, who just ran a bit ragged the point before, to kind of figure out how to get back on the field and do something a bit different, but not a lot of time to kind of put their brains to it.
Yeah, the Hawkyards, Jack and Sarah, married a couple of years ago, I think, at this point, actually. And usually it's rare to see them at a tournament without one or both sets of parents in tow. But Jack operates on the O-line and Sarah is a dynamite defender and will be sure to generate blocks on the D-line for deep space. And both came through the programme at the University of Sussex, which I mentioned for no reason in particular. He lied, lyingly. Jeffrey picks up the pull and centres to Thompson. Lewis isolated in the centre and he drops it. No other way to describe it. He would back himself to make that catch every single time. Gilboy, rocking slightly longer hair than I'm used to. Out of his face with that Alice band. Working in the backfield with Ellis. Gilboy again. Speared downfield for Sasha Haynes. Into Kovshov. Kovshov with air underneath it. And who's waiting but the long levers in the end zone of Ian Tate.
Yeah, Ian Tate's definitely someone you're pretty happy to have in the end zone when a slightly floaty high disc goes up. Not a bad shape on it, but yeah, definitely someone you want to be able to bring it down before any defense has a chance to make a thought on it. But that felt like an inevitability. If there was going to be another turn, deep space with the cleanness of their O-line offense, we see there the drop, and then just bringing that clinical eye over onto this defensive line to secure the first break of the game.
Feels like a lot of the work on that point was actually done on the previous Reading O-line when, although they couldn't get the break, they just wore them down a little bit, were coaxing those errors, and as you mentioned, it did feel like a matter of time before they would make it count.
Yeah, and a lot of those O-line players did come straight back out again. Reading obviously wanting to make sure they've got a strong and competitive line on, but also having to carefully manage the energy in the legs. Might be contributing to some of the little errors that we're seeing, that sort of tiredness end of the tournament. But now's the time to lock in.
That one is going to float again. And Sarah Hawkyard flashes over the top of Klima to get the block. This time superbly read by Sam Wilson. And he zips in front to intercept. Bignall looking for Wilson for the bookends in the end zone. Despite the flying defender, Wilson holds firm and Reading hold on. Bookends for Wilson.
Amazing defense. Such a great read of the play. Maybe a little bit of complacency from deep space. A lot of Reading players still in the area, but a huge and athletic effort from Sam Wilson to secure that defense, and then absolutely tearing deep. I think his defender gave up. I think it was Andy Turner who'd come off from somewhere else on the field and tried to chase that down, put in a great effort to get there, but not enough. Wilson bringing that down.
And then taking advantage of the transition, the veteran Bignall just floats it up there. Faith that Wilson was always going to bring it in, despite the advances of Turner.
Yeah, great dogged attempt from Turner. Wasn't positioned for it, but just thought, let me go, let me put some pressure on. Unfortunately, Wilson wasn't prepared to feel any stress at all, bringing that down nice and safely. But, you know, you've got to give props to someone who's going to put that level of effort and grit and grind in on defense.
Lewis then to pull. Again, trying to sit it out on the wind. Not sure it's going to curl back in bounds. It very much is not. Trying to work out who the photographer is, who's got a face full at the end of the end zone. I think it's Graham Charleswell. Get out from behind the lens and catch the damn thing. This will be a pretty clear decision to Brick.
Yeah, with the wind coming a little bit more sort of from left to right. It's still high side on the far side of the field. The wind's still coming in our face here on the camera side, but it has sort of shifted a bit so that the left side end zone is a little bit more upwind. So those pulls really getting the wind behind them and sailing through.
Up the line to Phipps. Again, trying to sit it into the end zone. Perfectly in stride for Dan Wilson for the deep space hold. Their O-line so far 3 for 3 and yet to surrender.
Offense is just looking so smooth for deep space right now. The players are really moving with such determination on the field. I feel like it's really clear for the thrower where the attacking area is. And then when you've got the skills behind the disc, all these, seasoned throwers are able to put these discs out. And each time it feels like even when the Reading defense is right there, the way that they're sitting the disc out in front, putting a little bit of curve on it. We can see this one again. Looks up, looks downfield, sees the cut. And then that sits out really nicely with just enough curve to come back in, right into the path of Wilson. And beyond any sort of play to be made by the defenders.
This is exactly what deep space would want. You've got an early break. Your offense looking smooth and silky. And Reading have really not hit their straps yet.
We spoke about perhaps Reading coming in having had a slightly tougher semi, might be having tired legs, but I suppose the other side of that is they've had a challenge this morning. They've already had to dial in and really bring their A game.
The old rest versus rust debate.
Yeah, hard to say, but I do think, when you're talking about athletes of this caliber who put in the work on and off the field, I'm sure their legs are tired, but it's not going to slow them down too much.
No, it's not the most, in terms of the quality, obviously it's really high, but it's not the most punishing schedule necessarily. You're not out there back to back to back all day. Brew fakes the under to Wilson. Now Kwok provides the option. Finding Brown on the near side. Pick downfield. Lovely break by Brown, but all for naught. Happened definitely a couple of seconds ago. Love the option, however. Tate getting back into position. See compression sleeve on that right calf. Oh, the wind whipping up again. And actually the disc is going to stay with Coons. Brew trying to jink her way free. Coons wanted to sit it over the top, but Gilboy was alert and wise to it. Gobbles it up. Khan across. Calls for it back and gets it from the offhand. Got a cross-gender matchup there. As the 281s do battle, not often you see that. This time Tate gets the better of Coons. Ellis downfield. Just past the bit of Coons. Tate continues to Khan. Khan around the bidding Kwok. Happy to keep shuttling it back and forth until space opens downfield. There's the scuba into the soft spot. And deep space break again. They are all over Reading at the moment. Seems to be nothing they can do. Ben Andrews that time with the score.
Yeah, deep space not putting a foot wrong at this stage. A couple close calls there, some really big efforts from Reading to get that one back, but we see that bid, a question of centimetres maybe. But deep space just feeling in control. Scuba over the top, not a problem. Feet making sure that that's put in and on the tally sheet.
Yeah, lots to do here for Reading. Finding themselves in this early hole, down a couple of breaks, 5-2. And nothing is coming easy for them at the moment.
Plenty of game left, though. We're still quite early on the clock. A couple of those deep space points coming in quite quickly. I wonder if we'll see a timeout, perhaps, at some point.
I must say I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen one already. But you only have 2 timeouts to use a game, not 2.5. So Reading wanting to conserve one, or conserve both, in fact. Espinosa into the centre where he finds Lewis, to Thompson running through. Surveying options, worming his way underneath is Lewis. The little force into the end zone could have gone, not taken. Still rising. Thompson as a reset, looks off Espinosa. Cutter's desperately trying to attack the front cone, still rising. And just about getting it off in time to Ray, who collapses. A clean hold for Reading, but I have seen much cleaner holds than that. It doesn't feel like it's fully antibacterial necessarily.
Yeah, that was a squeaky point for sure. Fire catching that and then somehow landing sort of on her head. A bit obscure, but, you know, getting the job done. That felt uncomfortable. Reading using their skills to the absolute best of their ability to find those options. So many, what must have been stall 8, probably 9 throws, yep. And then a little moment to play dead, as Fire is known to do. But yeah, that it was clean, but it was uncomfortable. Deep space, keeping the pressure on that whole way.
I think if you're deep space, you're that D-line, you say, that's a win. It was a clean hold, but we really made them grind it out. For Reading, look, clean hold. Wasn't pretty? No. But we didn't give them a chance at it for the first time all game. That's something to build from.
Yeah, the measure of success for the D-line, I mean, obviously you want a turnover and you want to convert it. That's kind of the ultimate, but you got to be able to measure success in other ways, and keeping them out, making them make high stall count throws, making them make throws they clearly don't want to be making. Like, all of those are indications of strong defense. But Reading will be pleased to have not given them the turnover that time.
Kwok going for the rolling pull at Gilboy. Slide tackles on the sideline to stop from going any further. Yulworth runs the 1-2 with Sloan, who airs it out. This is going to float. Players closing. In the end, no one gets there. First turnover for the deep space O-line.
Yeah, an interesting shot from Sloan. Definitely didn't come out the hand, I think, as intended. That wasn't the shape of the intended throw. Definitely showed a lot to the wind, which, I mean, might become boring, but, you know, is such a big influence on how everyone's playing, on what choices they're taking on, and how the execution ends up. But it felt a bit unnecessary. So far, deep space have been so clinical. Don't need to force those options.
So no player in the reset space. Klima breaks the mark to Kwok on the near sideline. Kemp screams for it in the center and receives. Now Brown commits his body to the ground and airs it out. Wilson's going to be the target. A couple of players in the area and Wilson can't get it. Deep space defenders do enough.
Yeah, Dan Wilson getting position, holding position. Reading that really well, just meaning that there's actually not really an offensive play to be made.
Phipps was in the area as well. Cauldron to pick up. Sloan stretches wide. And now Naden to Hawkyard, who's going to wear it out, looking for Cauldron again, and she makes a superb snag on a dying disc. Sitting it out into space for Phipps for the deep space score.
There we see that expansive deep space play, but it all felt really measured. You know, that wasn't forced, that Cauldron had such great separation. That disc out in front asked a lot of her, but, you know, she's more than able to make that play and then collect herself to pop that in for the score. Expansive, but not forced, not rushed, not, you know, not under pressure.
No, Cauldron often doing damage in the handler space, but both possessions on that point, they look to get her deep, and I think they may have seen something they like there with that matchup of trying to get Cauldron slashing out of the handler space.
It does really feel like deep space. There's a lot of trust across the squad. You know, I think there are some teams where you see specific connections coming through time and time again, and I'm sure deep space have their sort of, you know, we'll see some repetitions, but it really feels like everyone on the field like does their job and is fully trusted. You know, no one's getting looked off. If someone's made a good cut and is open, they're getting in the disc. And I think that really, that really speaks to that kind of team mentality and the way that they've been building as a team, as a squad for the last few years, and the success that they've reaped from it.
Reading did get the disc off that deep space O-line for the first time, but could not make it count. Watt watches the pull all the way in. Again, trying to find the inside option of Lewis. Now Leicester looking fearsome with the now red hair. Thompson can take the swing onto Hogan here and does. Lewis comes short. Leicester clears it out deep. Doesn't see the force through to Hogan. And instead it's Emily Powell who goes to Thompson on the far sideline. Lewis trying to jink his way free. Sells Kovshov right the way down the river in the backfield. Gets space to put it deep. And Leicester slides and loses it on the landing.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. A great effort from Leicester. Just at the edge of her fingertips, it seems, and can't maintain it through contact with the ground. You can see the disappointment there. Really wanted to bring that home.
Just as she lands, that elbow jars and the disc scuttles loose. Andrews trying to get the D-line moving. That's going to float into the air. Could be anyone's. Carrier and Hogan combine.
Great shutdown defense from Reading. Giving them nothing.
Hogan getting on the move early. Instead broken around. Watt goes up, brings it down with the right hand. Again, nothing in the handler space. You saw him look for that high release nice and early, hoping someone would come free, but they couldn't. He just had to put it into traffic. And Baker sweeps up. Into the gut of Ellis, who uncorks it. This one's comfortably undercooked. Hogan intercepts. Watt shovels the push pass through to Lewis. Cheeky. Leading Hogan further down that break side, where he's looking to air it out. Khan had a read on it the whole way. And Gilboy, I think, senses the opportunity to take a breather and take the timeout.
Certainly does feel like this would be pretty lethal if Deep Space can put this one in. It's an even bigger hill for Reading to climb to get back into this game. So not a bad time to call the timeout, just to collect and sort of recenter, because it's been a bit frantic. And we've seen from the earlier points that's definitely not their game plan.
No, calm and collected is how Deep Space want to play. 6-3 then they lead, with a chance to add another on the break here in the mixed final at UKU Nationals.
goodness.
That is unbelievable.
And straight into and made first.
That was absolutely incredible.
Deep Space up 6-3, another break chance in the first half that has been not quite one-way traffic, but certainly Deep Space looking dominant. However, there they get bitten by the curse of the turnout, could not get it cooking from a standstill. Thompson backpedals to pick up. Lewis across to Watt. Looking at this big underspace, didn't see a cut develop until later than he wanted. Garnier instead comes through, squeezes to Lewis. He and Kovshov been a fun matchup. Powell now, beckoning Thompson out of the space, wanting Watt to come in. Now with the stall rising, trying to get it into the center. Andrews is waiting. They've just not been able to have any fluency offensively. Archer has a free reset of Andrews and wisely takes it. Now Gilboy. Looking to zip that one. Undersold Kovshov. Never gave a shot. Got a little bit scrappy out here, Doug.
Yeah. Just not quite enough focus on execution. Reading now back with a chance to get this long-awaited hold that they so desperately need, but it feels like every time they get near the end zone, they've just got tunnel vision. We're not seeing resets. We're not seeing options. We're just seeing, you know, a mass of people in the end zone, and actually they just need to be able to play that a little bit calmer. We saw Watt abandoned.
Yeah, it's been a melange. That time Garnier is wide open. Can they move it before they get set? Thompson trying to redirect. There's no continuation on that break side that I'm sure Hogan desired. Lewis. Hogan shuttling back and forth. Lewis wants to get it off the line but not seeing it. And then gets stuffed by Kovshov. It's that clutter again from Reading. They need to change their offensive game plan because it looks so sloppy.
Yeah, they're being their own worst enemy outside the end zone, which is where you need to be the cleanest. It's really a shame.
Archer plucks with a right hand in front of Leicester and now finds Ellis. Gets it into Gilboy. Khan comes off the front, rolls it around to Baker. Taking a while for anything to develop, looking to feed it through to Archer, and she's not going to catch up with that one. 5 turnovers aside now at this point.
Yeah, that is a really tough shot. When it comes off, it's absolutely visionary, but like that throw is so hard to get the right level of IO on it for it to keep sitting out, and in these sorts of conditions, really unforgiving.
Just needs to sit down on it a little bit more and so they could get cushioned and give more of an opportunity for that IO shape.
Yeah, Baker, a really phenomenal thrower, but that one not executed well enough.
Thompson wants to uncork. Khan and Kovshov in the area, not enough to stop Lewis. Now Garnier on the break side. Powell in the end zone, not going to get it. Resets to Thompson instead. Thompson zips it into Lewis for Reading. That's much more like it, and the hell point comes to an end.
Good on Reading for finally punching that one in. It doesn't. We talked before about, they had a clean hole, but it didn't feel that clean. I mean, that certainly was very far from a clean hole, but even then, everything just feels uncomfortable. The Reading offense you know, even we saw that under what looked like an underpass going to Leicester and snatched out the air by Thompson. So they're keeping the possession, but it just feels like they're in each other's way a lot, giving the opportunities for that hand block by creating so much traffic, so much mess around, and able to get a bit of momentum, a little bit of space. We see here again, pop back to Thompson and then into Lewis. Reading really driving through a few very specific players and really sort of struggling to find the space and find the structure that, you know, Deep Space gave some turns back there, but we have really seen Deep Space playing very expansively across all the players on their team, and it feels like Reading perhaps a little bit messier, really needing to look to those same few players to really keep driving the progress, and that just doesn't feel like that's going to be sustainable. And that does feel like a systems issue.
If you're Reading here, you feel like you need to keep the Deep Space O-line out there for a little bit, even if you don't necessarily get the break that you crave, because the last thing you want is for them to get off the field just as quickly as they get on and have that O-line that's got all that lactic acid in the legs have to go back out there.
Well, Reading out in a zone now, but Deep Space find the gap.
Cam Samuels tried to flash in, but didn't get there in time. That one too far out in front for Bailey. They will get an opportunity here.
Smart move from Reading to come out in a zone with the gusts blowing.
And they've got a lot of throwing firepower on this line, that's for sure. Klinge and Koons on the run. Klinge gunning it, it's going to be tipped. Who's going to get there at the end? What a grab by Wilson with Hawkyard right on his shoulder, and he finds Koons. That's why you bring your big throwers on against the wind. Wilson climbs it to bring it in, and Reading earn back one of those breaks. Let's be honest, they haven't really looked like doing at all, but the game can flip so quickly.
Yeah, that was a really nice and really needed quick and clean break from Reading. That's that kind of confidence to remind themselves that they've earned their place in this final and they can go toe-to-toe with Deep Space. And now I think they've just suddenly remembered that fact and are bringing that to us on the field. So a hold and a break in reasonably, well, you know, it took a while to get the hold, but the break came in quick succession after that.
The D-line offense for Reading looks better than their O-line offense, and that's not the way around it's supposed to go.
Yeah, well, as we said, the O-line has had a significantly higher amount of time out on the field.
Both of these sides have qualified for next year's World Ultimate Club Championships in Limerick. Very much looking forward to going back to the Emerald Isle. And even though both have qualified, the winner of this game will take the seeding of the best placed UK's team from the last championships in Ohio. And that was Reading with a top 8 placement. So the winner here, as well as crowning themselves the national champion, gets a very high seed going into Worlds as well, and gives themselves the best possible shot of a high finish again.
Yeah, Reading's hard graft at the last championship will pay off for one of these teams. I'm sure Reading are quite emphatically communicating to us that they hope it's them. But if not, I'm sure Deep Space will be very grateful for their big effort in the last cycle. Before Worlds, of course, both of these teams are going to be going to EUCF. Deep Space qualifying with a 3rd position, Reading in 10th.
Yeah, and that means that Reading could potentially have a lot of tough teams at the top of that pool. Trying to lead Cauldron into space, she can't collect. A Reading break could bring us level. Espinosa wants it in 1, looking for Nedic. And although he slid to his knees, he couldn't get underneath it. Sloan comes up line and collects. Hawkyard now in the midfield on the sideline. Foul called on contact from Karia.
It is a hard throw down this sideline. Hawkyard right on his outside foot and pivot foot in the field, of course, but his outside foot right on the line. Winds gusting from the far side over here. It is hard to keep that disc in, but he's not prone to a miss throw. We can see the replay, wind up. Oh, that's tough.
There is contact. It's close to whether it happened before or after he released it.
Yeah, and of course in the commentary box we get the slow-mo replay.
Yeah, we
but
do
on
get the
field.
benefit of replay that they do not have.
Yeah, and they did kindly have this interaction directly in front of our camera, so.
Violation. Dan Godbold, the game advisor on the far sideline, shows everyone how to do the symbol correctly. Crafty break off the sideline to get themselves more room to work with. A floater. Caudron steadied herself well. Sloan looking for Caudron, miscommunication. Ray bottled her up, and Nedic doesn't want the quick pickup.
That's a shame. Ray was deep with little pressure. Caudron steps behind, but Reading perhaps feeling that they rushed a couple of their earlier options.
As much as I like going quickly, Reading have looked rushed at times. That seems like another rush decision as Karia can't close the gap.
There is a great distinction between getting things moving quickly and rushing, and I think the teams here might be slightly falling foul of that.
That's an absolute moon ball and an almighty collision underneath it. Leicester and Hawkyard collided heavily as the rain begins to come down here in Nottingham.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate, both looking up in the air, not seeing where each other were, and just
felt like a hospital pass when it went up, but you still never like to see anyone down on the floor as the heavens have well and truly opened here in the East Midlands. Let's take a little bit of a break here so Leicester can receive some treatment. 6-5 deep space up on Reading in the UKU mixed final.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the net and made for it.
that was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the tip and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the tip and made for it.
That was absolutely incredible.
Welcome back to ULTI.TV's coverage of UKU Nationals 2025 mixed final in progress. We have had a stoppage. It was a very hefty collision on the field and had a break, an extended break in play so Nicole Lester could receive treatment.
Glad to see Nicole getting some good medical support from the team here. Obviously, with collisions and then when any concern at all, they just want to be super cautious. But she's made her way off the field. Now the teams are going to have to try and dial back in. It's so tough, these injury stoppages. Both sides, the team, the opponents are concerned. Never want to see anyone getting injured, but really tough for Nicole's team as well to kind of get their head in the game and not let any kind of concerns for her linger. They've still got a job to do, and
It's so tough to pick yourself up from whatever side you're on. It's not something anyone wants to see. Our early understanding is that it might be a rib injury, which never good, but thankful it's not something, potentially worse. You always, when someone's prone on the ground like that for a long time, you're always worried about spine or neck injuries. But yeah, a really nasty collision, and obviously sending her our best.
yeah, hopefully not too sore, but glad to hear they're not concerned. It's more than that. So now the team's trying to get set. Reading will be on offense. That was a deep space turnover with that sky ball coming in.
Yeah, in this situation, they're treating it essentially like a timeout, so Reading are just going to get into position offensively, and then deep space will set themselves defensively.
We should clarify the clock was stopped during that injury stoppage.
And their option off the timeout is to immediately shoot it deep and turn it over out of the side of the pitch.
Yeah, so maybe they do know that the clock was stopped, so they shouldn't be quite in such a rush. We spoke about that before the stoppage.
But I think
both sides just gunning it and actually needing to just take that. Could have taken that time to refocus, and that's quite an aggressive first look.
Yeah, with the wind picking up a little bit. I think just trying to chance his arm there, Espinosa. Gordon gets it off the line to Yorworth. Great seeing her back healthy again. Now gunned again. Sloan looking for Tate. Espinosa gets position nice and early and makes amends. Jeffrey takes high. Looking for an under option, which Klinge provides. Slashing all the way across the field was Hagen. Squires came in to cause some traffic. The swing trying to advance on that. Picked off by Hawkyard. Hawkyard going deep for Squires, who leaps it into the end zone for the score.
Yeah, there was the deep shot that had the necessary touch, the necessary shape on it. We saw Hawkyard take on that shot on this home sideline earlier in the point, not to no avail, and you'll see him execute it on that far sideline with the finesse that he, I'm sure he usually brings to it. Really nice shot sat out into space for Squires to run onto. And it did feel different. You know, we've seen some of those long shots at different points in this particular point, but in previous points. And that whole thing around fast shouldn't be rushed, or, you know, expansive doesn't necessarily mean it's a sort of desperate launch into the end zone. And that felt very different. That look was intentional, and you can see him sit right down into that, put a lot behind it. And Squires sprinting down there, happy to kind of square that one away.
So Reading had a couple of opportunities off that extended break in play. Could not make either of them stick for a break that would bring them back level. And deep space cling on.
A little bit of a taste of their own medicine though for deep space. That was, after all, only a hold. But Reading really making them work for it through that point.
Reading just misremembering the gender ratio there. It's an even point on the scoreboard, so we should have the same as last time, which is 4 female, 3 male matching players. Palmer pulls. Well, she was once part of the furniture here at Reading before moving to the other side of the world, representing Australia at WUCC and now back in the UK. Wilson to Brew. Looking for Karen Kwok. Bignall lays out and saves and rolls back into position. Wilson now. Putting it, looking for Brown. Going to be well contested and well defended. And slapped out at the side, but a foul called on the contact.
That was a real trust throw. Brown was in the area, but Khan was right on his shoulder and Archer close behind.
And it's not massively open. And there definitely is contact from Khan on Brown. And it looks like an accepted foul is going to be the result.
Oh, that is close, yeah.
I think you can say that Brown had his position early and Khan might have got a touch on it, but in doing so put himself in a position where he couldn't avoid initiating the contact with Brown.
Yeah, hard to say because it did look like Khan maybe kind of got in front, but on the field, resolved as an uncontested foul.
Again, no reset for Brown. Such is the Reading way. He eventually gets it back to Wilson, able to force it to Bignall for the Reading hold.
Making it work, but once again, the clean hold that doesn't feel very clean.
It definitely is harem scarum at points for Reading, this. But these sides so closely matched. Everything is being fought for tooth and nail. It's very much the Reading style. They keep that handler space vacant so someone can come through for a reset that's maybe a little bit more aggressive. And Wilson, just with a little feed into Bignall, gets Tate convinced he's going into the backfield, and then head spikes it for good measure as he escapes into the distance. I feel like Teresa and Mark Bignall alternate who plays Reading at a time.
Very possibly.
Someone's got to look after the little ones, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, both Teresa and Mark, such huge contributors to the Reading community, Reading Ultimate community.
Yeah, both with the elite setup and, you know, with the development as well.
Yeah, good to be able to take it in turns for their time in the ultimate sun, although in this case, pouring rain.
Yes, the rain has come down once more, and you might be able to hear it on the field mic hammering down on the tent. There's a deep shot that goes up. Espinosa was waiting and gets another block. It's been very good defensively for Reading in this game. Definitely felt like a game where defenses have ruled the roost. On a high stall, Hogan just trying to air it out. Lewis was closest, but not really that close.
Well, the conditions here have very quickly become,
I won't say apocalyptic or biblical.
yeah, I don't want to pull that out quite yet, but
I'm very glad I commissioned that arc to be built.
yeah, hostile to say the least.
And it's natural in those conditions that you will see more errors. Thompson looking deep this time for Karia. And a bit more of the field position game being played. Cauldron gives the disc a wipe before going to Squires. And then Naden underneath. Good day to win the flip and take darks, I think. Foul on the throw. Hogan had already charged off, hoping to collect a simple flip, but this looks like it might come back. You see the raindrops scatter and cloud the camera.
I'd say we should probably put it in front of them.
I think
Rob, I'm
that
gonna put it in front of
withdrawn
you, grab the equipment.
foul call. Rachel Naden just gestured with her hand that it was a turnover.
So Reading with a great short field opportunity and a chance to bring it level and get us to Galaxy Point. Jeffrey with a bit of air to Hogan. And that is the Reading break. They look high, well, they looked all lost at sea, but they've been able to come up for air, escape from the depths. And all of a sudden we're level pegging, and given how the first half hour or so of this game played out, that felt most unlikely.
Yeah, I will say, you know, we were really feeling like Deep Space were in the driving seat, and I don't know that Reading have really kind of come up to that level, but maybe there's been a little bit of a meeting in the middle.
Yeah, maybe they've not saying they've dragged Deep Space down a little bit, but certainly the quality of Deep Space's play has regressed slightly, and I think Reading deserves some credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping the pressure on. Reading keeping their head in the game. You know, their teammate went off with an injury. That can be really disruptive, but they've really just focused on the job that they came here to do. And put themselves back in, you know, in contention.
Yeah,
it's very easy to let one break turn into two breaks, turn into more, but they've clawed their way back in with two breaks of their own.
Got ourselves a Galaxy Point. On the throw from Jeffrey to Hogan. That Wimbledon umbrella being put to very good use.
Yeah, really testing the structural integrity.
Should we just close the roof here at the Highfields Sports Complex? Does it work like that?
Skydome.
I'm being told that it doesn't. Where's wall-to-wall soccer when you need it? Bignall ready to pull. Reading will be receiving to begin the second half, so they would love a break here on Galaxy Point. First pass is central to Cauldron. Looking out in front for Naden, who lays out magnificently and caused the injury on the landing. Hopefully it's a winding and nothing more.
Yeah, great effort to keep that one. Yeah, it seems like it might just be slightly winded rather than anything else, but
Landing on the solar plexus potentially. Yeah, another stoppage in a game that, you know, even before these injuries struggled for fluency at times, but it's so tricky in a game like this. Conditions most inhospitable.
Rachel Nading getting off and walking off though, so
that's a very good sign.
Good sign. Hopefully just needs to have a moment to catch her breath. Karen Kwok, number 18 for Reading, ultimate a doctor and has been straight on the scene in both instances, so big shout out to her for bringing that support.
Hannah Sloan came on as the injury sub, with the point only really having just commenced. Reading didn't see anyone come out there and change. Again, another big collision. Brown saw the opportunity to flash in there and cleaned out Tate as he did so.
Yeah, that's one of those approaches that if you're on defense, you just need to be aware that they don't know you're there. And the onus really is on you to avoid that contact. Tate clearly had no concept that someone was coming in. That's completely, seems like it was completely blindside. Yeah.
And there's not massive contact, but when Tate is in the air and you get the contact coming from the opposite direction, it's always going to clean him out. Thankfully, he's okay.
Yeah, I think Brown needs to have a moment of reflection on that one, because that is, I would consider that quite a dangerous play, and the onus really is on the defense in that instance to make sure that they're not going to be initiating contact.
Cauldron being forced by Brew. Distributes it back to Squires. He's looking to continue the break. It's too far for Yorworth. Reading with a chance to break into half. Wilson looking for Brown. Force eventually comes on. Centre into Bignell, now Brew. Trying to take the methodical approach here. The wind does whip. Kemp looking for an option. All that blades out of the hand. And Squires was right in position to slap it to the floor.
Looked like the disc was almost on fast forward. That just absolutely swept through the air. Lady as anything. Tough to get it so close, but now can Deep Space do something with it?
Still raining, even though the sun comes out here. A really tough catch for Yorworth to make. They're not really putting her in a position to succeed here.
Asking a lot of Hannah Yorworth, and she's a very solid receiver, but these blades are just not, they're not what the day calls for. They're not what the conditions call for. It's quite bright out there, but it is still raining. And you can't be doing those sort of high release blades. It's a little bit lazy on the disc. You've got to be sitting right into it. You've got to be taking, if you want to break the force, you've got to take it on. Can't just try and pop it over their shoulder because it's just not fair on the receiver. Poor Hannah Yorworth.
Brew does her shoelaces and then brings in, threatening the upline, and it opens the centering pass. Wilson just wants something easy. Breaks around to Bignell. Reading lead for the first time with a break on Galaxy Point to take an 8-7 half-time lead.
That's huge for Reading. We've talked about it maybe being a little bit messy, a little bit of a sort of grubby offense. But I guess sometimes you just got to play, you know, quick and dirty, get the job done. It's not always going to be beautiful, but Reading have really figured out in this latter part of the game how to score some points and use those blocks.
Yeah, you see there the break into Bignell. Reading with the advantage going into the half, and they receive to begin the second as well. So a chance to begin to escape away from their opponents. Reading then, with a late charge in this first half, take the advantage into the interval. 8-7 here in the mixed final UKU Nationals continues on the other side.
Always on the move? You can keep up to date with ULTI.TV on all of our social media channels. Like, follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate everywhere.
Oh my goodness. That is unbelievable. And created the set and made first.
That was absolutely incredible.
UKU Nationals mixed division final. Deep Space and Reading locked at loggerheads here. Reading taking their first lead of the game with a break on Galaxy Point, and they're now going to be receiving to begin the second half and a chance to open up their first 2-point lead. Benji Reese alongside Rachel Douglas. How can you sum up that?
Yeah, listen, Benji, don't be asking me to summarise what we've just seen in the first half. I'm afraid if you missed it, you really should go back and watch. It's been, it's been exciting, we'll say. There's been lots of action. It's been a bit confusing at times, but here Reading are with the advantage. But unfortunately, as we've seen, more than a couple times so far in this game, that slightly over-ambitious shot that's actually just going to sail out this sideline. Reading with the advantage, giving it over to Deep Space. They're a break up now, but Deep Space with a break opportunity to get back evens.
Deep Space started this game much the better of the two sides, but Reading have ground their way back into it. This one's going to be hucked into traffic, and Ray, with a casual slap out of the sideline, was a big injury to Nicole Lester that stopped the game for 7.5 minutes or so. Saw Rachel Naden have to go off as well late in that first half. Although that one looks significantly less severe, which is good. But tough to get the mental resets when you have a big collision and a serious injury like that. Hogan with Teol on his back, looking for Powell in the end zone. Baker intercepts.
Great read from Claire Baker. Deep Space been struggling with their resets. Gilboy somewhat abandoned on that last possession.
And asked too much there of Ellis, who slides but could not collect. Thompson again says, no, let's go slow, calm, composed. Well, that's been tough for Reading. At times it feels like they've thrived in the entropy.
Reading setting up without a clear dump position, going in a sort of 1-6.
Yeah, they've tried to put that in place throughout this game. Sometimes it's worked. Feel like a lot of the time it hasn't. Thompson in the soft spot at the front of the end zone, collects the Reading score and puts them up 2.
Reading coming out of a 1-6 on the sideline, which, you know, when you've got it angled like that, can be really effective. We saw, you know, a cut from the front of Stack in the form of Thompson, not able to get it, Watt coming out. And then the issues start, because you see Reading kind of a bit more diffuse. You could see Watts calling for the Stack to tighten up. You could see him put his arm out like straight line, but somehow Reading managed to find the gap, eke it out. Despite a sort of unforced turnover earlier in that point, they secure their advantage. 2-point lead. Wouldn't have thought it, you know, halfway through the first half. It felt like
Reading were absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, it felt like Deep Space were fully in the driver's seat and Reading just didn't have an answer for it. But here we are. It's not beautiful, but it's getting the job done. Reading.
It's been effective.
Yeah, digging deep.
And they will tell you that the scoreboard shows no pictures. It just shows that Reading have that
Indeed.
2-point lead.
Deep Space now really needing to figure out, like, why are they giving these turnovers back? Their resets that were so efficient earlier in the game aren't connecting. And so whether that's Reading bringing more defensive pressure or not, Deep Space need to find an answer for it.
You're matched up against her GB teammate Kwok. Puts the air underneath it. The sideline might win this one. Phipps and Coons may have caught it at the same time. Doesn't matter in the end, because the first contact point for Phipps was out of bounds.
Yeah. A nice throw from Hannah Yorworth, but again, it felt like there weren't really other options. Looking in field, there wasn't anyone getting free. Tate going deep seemed to be the only separation on the field.
Coons, oh, that's a riser, that's dangerous. Still floating. Coons thinks he has it first. Phipps thinks he's got the Callahan. Gut instinct here.
Is it just because I want it to be a Callahan? I don't know.
Callahans are more exciting, but I will admit, I did think Phipps got there first.
Yeah, looks like he's got position. Tate did go up. Oh my God, I mean, that's about a 3-way catch.
Nothing conclusive by my eyes. If you want to see it again, it was pretty close to exact.
A simultaneous catch would,
Stay with Reading because the tie goes to the offense.
yeah, stay with the offense. It looked very close. On the field.
Yeah, went to the game advisor for their opinion.
Yep, it's being given as a goal.
That
is a tough.
Callahan.
That's a tough call. You know, it's. I mean, that's a testament to Reading, their spirit. It's not always going to be, you know, the factual answer, but you agree on a resolution, and with the game advisor's perspective, you know, we don't know what they saw from ours. It looked pretty simultaneous, but
I mean, I do think that Phipps got there a split second first, even from the replay.
I'm not sure. You know, Tate looked like he might have just got fingers on it first, but it's so close. That's the thing. And usually, maybe one more time, and we'll finally have the answers.
It would be, again, you'd have to go frame by frame almost, really slow it down.
But impressive that from Reading, you know, it goes to the game advisor. The game advisor's perspective was that Tate got there first, and great spirit to be able to accept that. It's not the result they would have wanted. Whether it was absolutely the correct truth, we'll never know. But yeah, good spirit from Reading to be able to go to the game advisor and take their advisement.
Yeah, of course, the game advisors, they don't make binding decisions, but they are allowed to offer perspectives if asked, and obviously the perspective was that Ben Phipps got there the split second earlier, and that was enough to take them at their word. So they surrendered the Callahan, but it is just a hold for Deep Space. Pick downfield is going to provide a temporary halt to proceedings.
So in the ever confusing conditions, we now don't have any rain, and we've actually got quite a lot of sun coming in. The pitch is warming up.
casting a glare off our rain-soaked table.
Yeah, wind is still blowing, but not to jinx it. Currently not quite as strongly as it was moments before.
Now that feels like asking for trouble.
Wow, let's just keep it interesting.
At least we don't have to play in it. Lewis on this sideline being matched up by Turner. Reading, not a lot of separation downfield. Finding the break option. Jeffrey goes to the floor but keeps alive. Reading forced to be so methodical here by deep space, really trying to shuttle them deep. There is the option. Finally the pressure told, and they wanted air underneath it, and it would not sit long enough for Hogan to provide the reception. And Jeffrey puts her hand up in apology.
Deep space defense doing a job there. Andy Turner particularly unbelievable, but an answer.
Luka Nedic there. Hawkyard's reset positioning too close, and it allowed Nedic to sit in that lane. And Fisher locked onto his target and didn't see the intermediate defender. Great play by Nedic. Lewis just collects that dish. Looking very static downfield. That might be why there's a pick. But again, I think that's been a little bit of a hallmark of Reading. It's not been fluid.
Yeah, but I wonder, I think, you know, deep space started with such space and flow, and the game has got quite gritty, you know, with the conditions and everything. Perhaps the fact that Reading have been fighting through that kind of scrappiness since the start is what's giving them the edge now. They've already done the reps, you know, they've already put in the work to figure out how to make it work when it's not going perfectly.
You merely adopted the conditions. I was born into it, molded to it, etc., etc., etc. Jeffrey tried to sneak that one under the mark, but that never really looked that open.
That was a very ambitious throw under the legs of
Archer,
Alana
and then
Archer.
Immediately looking deep. Tate high points in front of Ray and flips it into the end zone for the deep space break to bring us level. Sasha Haynes on the score, and we're knotted up once more at 9s.
It looked, and I might be mistaken in this, but it looked like when that throw went up, that was actually intended for someone else who had just started to cut under. I didn't see a number, but thankfully, whether that's true or not, Tate's in the area, will tidy that up. And as you said, Haynes there for the quick continuation, ready to just seal that one out, put it away.
A first goal contribution for Haynes this game, but a vital one because it brings deep space level. Reading still in the box seat, but deep space is showing that they are not going to let their opponents dictate terms. Puts all the air underneath it, all the faith that Tate would come up, and Haynes provides the continuation option.
Yeah, great. Maybe not quite the return to form that Deep Space would be hoping. Not tidying up these sort of scrappy point, but
they all count the same.
Getting it done.
Horrible pull to field that lands in bounds and bounces out of the sideline, where Coons will collect.
And now from one of the more horrible field positions.
And it zips off the hand of Brown. There's a call away from the play. He's trying to see who's engaged in discussion there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the call is. Are you getting an idea? Is this a foul discussion between the receivers, or?
So it's not.
No, it's
between Brown and Millard. It's.
Oh, I see. Hiding behind them from our line of sight.
Yes,
you can see them having a chat, but behind them we see another discussion going on.
Thacker and Liu. Maybe a little too much physicality. Not sure it affected the turnover, mind.
Yeah, that's tough. Maybe a little bit of contact on there, but that didn't relate to where the throw went and the lack of reception of that. So I think despite having a bit of discussion about that, this will come back in short field for Deep Space.
So trying to score in this downwind end zone a pick is going to bring things to a stop a good couple of seconds ago.
Ellis looked off on the up the line cut, a bit disappointed by that. It was a really nice early cut, definitely free and had room to work, but deep space with the reset.
Millard tries to craft it around, it's dangerous. Brown that time gets in there, a clear step in front of Kovshov. Wilson trying to scuttle free of his GB mixed teammate, Kovshov, and he does. Brew, the big fake, just to wave cutters out of that space. Koons finds the inside window through to Kemp. Kemp floats that one. Kovshov underneath it. Koons was not the target, but he collects. Now runs a 1-2 with Wilson and puts it out into space for the number 3, who gets in stride, and Sam Wilson keeps Reading noses in front, and it is just noses in front.
Yeah, we often talk about momentum swinging, and I mean, certainly it feels like it's swung quite solidly towards Reading's side. I mentioned earlier that Reading were really playing through that whole team with full confidence, and I don't know, that getting the disc there, and then Charlie Ellis makes a great up the line cut, had separation, didn't get the disc. They find a different dump, and then the play breaks down, ultimately leading to a turnover. It feels like it's sort of indicative of this change in the deep space mentality and in a deep space approach. Earlier in this game, I think that disc would have gone. Ellis has been playing an absolute stormer the whole time. Certainly isn't a reflection on her as a player. She's been putting an absolute shift in and has been really solid for deep space. But perhaps just that slight nervousness, just feeling a little bit more pressure. Whereas earlier on, it was all confidence. But Reading really have figured out how to get in the minds of deep space.
Those, maybe we'll call it an egalitarian style early in the game. As for the pressure tightens, I think it's only natural that you probably go back to your more favoured targets. Excellent roll stopping on the sideline, because that came in at a horrible angle. Although, because it landed out of bounds, Cauldron is going to bring it into the Brit mark anyway, but it does allow us to get going a little bit quicker, which is nice. Hooter going to go in about a minute's time. A little bit after we expected, of course, because of the injury to Leicester.
Cauldron putting that one up, not able to connect.
Reading with a chance to go 2 points clear again. Scoring in the downwind end zone. With it going diagonally to the bottom right of your screen. Salah into space for Nedic. And he climbs and brings in the space throw from Thompson. That is more of the incisive play that Reading have lacked for much of the game. But they turned it on there to give themselves some breathing room.
Yeah.
Not much breathing room, but maybe enough.
Yeah, that was the sort of decisive and proactive play that they've been going for a lot of the game. Unfortunately, has felt rushed time and time again. Max Squires desperately trying to recover. Desperately trying to get the defense there, putting his whole body behind it, but not able to do it. We saw him go tumbling to the ground. Unsure if physically or emotionally damaged, perhaps a little bit of both.
Yeah, Hooter has just gone, so we will finish this point, add one, and that'll be our cap. So it'll be 10-11 and a game to 12, or 12-9 in a game to 13, and you can know which way round both sides would have it. Brew gets ready to pull.
We can see Ruth Cauldron on the line to receive the pull. We mentioned her name earlier. Nay Cauldron, but we believe the transition is about to occur where we'll be saying her new surname, which is...
I didn't get this info.
Oh, you didn't? I thought you were
No.
there in the conversation. I think it's Go Lightly. I think it's correct. I hope I haven't butchered that, but anyway.
Congratulations regardless.
Yeah, I believe the families are all watching, so congratulations.
Please correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah. We're happy to see that lovely union on the back of the shirt.
We'll stick with Cauldron for now because that's how it is on the roster.
Yeah, now Cauldron with a job to do, puts a deep one up.
That's a beautiful throw for Phipps, who lays out, and it was a touch too far. I thought for sure he would get there, but it kept going at speed, and he couldn't quite collect.
I've just this moment realised that that's not Andrew Tate, and Ian Tate. Forgive me. Ian
definitely
Tate.
not the other one.
Andrew Tate's definitely not on the field. Ian Tate, and actually there's two very tall lads on the field for deep space. So forgive me if I've got mixed up earlier with Ian Tate.
Yeah, and Ben Phipps, both in the low 80s.
Yeah.
Both big physical presences. Coons wants to air it out once more. Bignall's got steps in behind Tate. Maybe trying to bait that a little bit, but it came back to bite. Bignall's looking for an end zone option. Shovels it back through to Coons. Brown slashes across and collects. Reading break again. Deep space with it all to do. 12-9 Reading lead. Game to 13. Can Deep Space find the comeback to keep their national streak alive?
Max Squires head in hands. This is not what Deep Space thought was going to happen. This is not what they thought at the beginning of the game. This is not what they thought in the first half. You know, they really felt like they started with a lot of intention and they had those connections, but Reading have just shown grit and determination.
It's not been the prettiest performance from Reading, and I think they would be the first to admit that. But if they get the job done, I can also tell you they will not care at all.
Yeah.
It's all about getting over the line in these big games, and that might be what they're about to do. Emphasis on might, because Deep Space are not going to go down easy.
Yeah, you know, they say hope for the best but prepare for the worst. And a hard and grinding game, you know, that's what these teams train for. They train to come up against the absolute best opposition. And, you know, these two have met each other time and time again, sizing each other up, getting each other's numbers, and
you can be sure that Deep Space will not go lightly into that good night.
no, for sure. Reading showing a huge amount of determination here.
Cauldron lays out to stop the pull, but can't. The disc does skim through the back of the end zone, and I don't think she ever got a touch on it, so it will get the chance to be brought to the front.
Yeah, just checking, I think Andy Watt just making sure, confirming that no touch was made. So that will come to the front. Max Squires picking up.
Yeah, happy to take Cauldron on a word that she didn't touch it. Cauldron swings around to Yorworth. Been kept relatively quiet by Reading. This is a tough ask.
This Reading wall is really stifling any downfield connection.
You wonder how long will Deep Space's patience and temperament hold firm, whether they look to pull the trigger at some point. Cauldron, there is nothing coming easy downfield. So congested in the handler core. Squires. There's the jack. Tate's the target. And Tate gets position and bodies out Nedich. Well judged long shot by Squires. Felt like it needed to come. He delivered it true. Wilson to Cauldron. Into space for Yorworth. And it keeps Deep Space alive. That's the first part of the job done. Yorworth's first goal gets their offense off the field. Now they need 3 breaks on the spin.
That was a hairy moment for Deep Space. Pushed right back into their own end zone. Andy Watt on the force. 2 other defenders with him in a wall, given really very few options. Deep Space having to move laterally time and time again, losing yards, and it was only that deep put. Ian Tate setting that up nicely and really kind of holding space to secure that led on to Cauldron, as we see there, the pass for the score. But that felt very under pressure, and kudos to Deep Space for keeping their head. We knew that longer put had to come, and they weren't finding the gaps otherwise. So great to be able to execute that so well, but my goodness, that Reading defense was something.
And now Deep Space trying to generate energy and positivity from the sideline to power themselves back into this contest. Brew elects to let the ball hit the floor and exchanges with Wong. Looking for Wong again, but Haynes burgles through. Turner, can he find an option? Good adjustment by Palmer. Lovely cushioned break into space for Kovshov. Flips into the offhand to slip through Palmer before getting it back. Pick.
Deep Space Cutters seeming quite end zone focused. That disc has been dumped a little bit further back. It might swing again, but can't just be making lateral cuts along the end zone. They might have to come out. I know they want to score, they want to put this away, but...
Bignell's on the floor. Hawkyard tried to jump it in. I'm not sure whether he was able to. Was there a brief push off on Bignell with a step on the toe? I'm not quite sure why he ended up splayed on the grass.
Yeah, it's not usually one for just spontaneous collapsing, so there might have been something there.
You'd be worried if he was.
Oh yeah, a little bit little jumping, little kind of using Bignell as maybe a slight sort of cushion to push off of.
Didn't realise that the UKU air horns that they used to signal stoppages had been replaced with vuvuzelas.
Well,
they are saying that the goal stands. Foul call retracted and Hawkyard was able to jump it in. So that is the first Deep Space break. They need 2 more. That's a good, very, very good start. A clean hold followed by a clean break. And we told you for Deep Space, they would not surrender cheaply.
no, they are going to give everything they have to try and dig their way out of this and into the gold medal position. Reading with the easier task. They just have to get 1 on the board. But Deep Space have proven that they're able to deliver under pressure, getting that first break.
Yeah, they're going downwind here as well. Palmer gets it. Hawkyard leaps it into the end zone. And we're going to have a timeout on the field as well. Can Deep Space find the comeback and take us to Universal? Will Reading hold firm to recapture the crown they have long since craved? 12-11 Reading lead in the mixed final at UKU Nationals. Reading 12, Deep Space 11. the start of the game, it was very much deep space in the driver's seat. Reading fought their way back into it, took the lead late in the first half, got themselves 12-9, game to 13. Deep space with a clean hold and a clean break. And they're going to get another break chance here, hucked into coverage, and Millard slaps to the floor. Palmer comes all the way through to pick up. Hawkyard is the reset.
This is an opportunity for deep space. They really need to do something with it.
Zip to Yorworth. Fakes downfield. Wide open underneath. Sarah Hawkyard. Can find an option. Stall rising. Jacks it. This one really zipping. And it goes right into the bucket of Millard. That's another deep space break. Another clean one as well. And we've got Universe.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this game has just been up and down, and naughty little catch there, and he knows it. That was really huge, a high stall count. That looked like one of the throws that we've seen time and time again today in this wind that's just going to sail out to nowhere. But with that absolute determination, Millard chased that down and secured the block, taking us to sudden death. Championship point.
This is what it all comes down to. One last roll of the dice. Will your number come up? Timeout called.
Now we see the strategists getting to work. Reading Ultimate now coming out on offense. Universe point. Desperate to put it away and secure this title.
We'll be interested to see whether they go with their usual upwind line or whether they mix and match a little bit. Be fascinating to see who goes out there for deep space as well, because in this position, even though Reading are on offense, you'd almost rather be deep space. They're the team that's got 3 scores in quick succession to bring us here. They're the team with the wind at their back at the moment. Feels like they really have the energy on their side here.
Yeah, it's a moment that separates the weak from the strong, mentally and physically. It's the last point of a long weekend where both of these teams have brought everything they could to their games.
So for deep space, we've got Turner, Tate, Yorworth, Haynes, Caudron, Hawkyard, Archer, and Gilboy. Seeing who's going out there for Reading, and it does look like it's going to be this normal upwind 7. So you've got Kemp, Brew, Klima, Kwok, Bignall, Wilson, but it looks like they're flexing Andy Lewis onto it as well. Who will be the player to come through to provide the big highlight reel play to capture the national title, and with it, a top 8 seeding at next year's World Ultimate Club Championships, don't forget.
Yeah, this is a huge point, both for this championship and as they move into their world cycle. Archer lets her rip.
Klima catches the pull. Brew plucks with the right hand. Klima clears out. Wilson's the first potential option. Instead, Bignall creates a little seam. He's being marked by Hawkyard. Superb reaching grab behind by Andy Lewis. Lewis going short to Kwok. And I thought she had it, and then she lost it. Tate charges off deep. Caudron picks up quickly. Yorworth unveils herself. Now looking back to Caudron. Kwok trying to be a nuisance on the mark. Crafts that backhand out into space for Yorworth. Caudron again. Switch peeled off the front. Past the bidding Wilson. Turner just about collects. It wasn't clean, but it did stick, and that's what matters. Can he get it off the line here? Still rising, just has to jack it into the end zone, into coverage, and Hawkyard comes down with it. And it's deep space once again. The UK national champions in the most ridiculous, bonkers game.
I can't believe the end to that game. This has just been such a roller coaster. I've been standing here for that whole point with my hands on my head, just feeling stress surging through me, and I got no skin in this game at all, but you can just see how much it meant to everyone. And Deep Space coming from behind, they had the advantage, they squandered the advantage, they let Reading back in. Reading seemed so dominant, and then Deep Space just resurged back into that clean and crisp and clinical offense, getting those defensive looks and then immediately punishing. And what a way to finish it out. I mean, kind of fitting. That throw didn't seem like it was, pretty precise, but you got some tall people in the end zone that you can just launch that to, and there weren't other options forthcoming. So once again, it wasn't beautiful, that final pass, but it did the job, and that sort of feels like the theme of the game.
It was crazy, it was climatic, it was chaotic, and I loved it. Mixed division final in the books. One more game still to come in the women's division. The final sees Bristol take on Iceni, another mouth-watering matchup. Rachel Douglas and Stefan Rapazzo will be your commentary team for that one. Let's get out quick because we're running a little bit behind then. Final score here in the UKU Mixed Division Nationals final is Deep Space 13, Reading 12. Deep Space are once again your UKU Mixed Division National Champions, and we will see you on the other side for the women's final.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, ultimate.
ULTI.TV.